All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through a stall setup, and so this would be a stall setup for an overnight rally and give you a window when we're judging first setup and safety. So that's the first day of the rally. We try to do that almost immediately after the briefing so that if there's something that needs to be corrected, we can correct it right away. And I will try to scale some things that if it's a one-day rally. I know in this area, a lot of the rallies are at trailers, so I will try to scale everything. So we have a normal stall for an overnight rally. You want to have 2 5-gallon buckets filled with water at all times. If you have one bucket with electrolytes, you would label it that it has electrolytes in it. Where the bucket should be hung, it should be at the point of the shoulder. The top of the bucket should be at the point of the shoulder. I recognize that a lot of places where you're going to stable your horses for a rally, it might be challenging for the taller horses to get the buckets that high. So we've had to have some flexibility. You can use a whole assortment of hangers. So we're in a permanent barn, so you can see that there are the nice bucket hangers already here. If you wanted to get your buckets a little higher, what I always recommend is having a good length of smooth chain, heavy duty chain that you can adjust to fit a variety of stabling situations. That would allow you to put chain around the bars and then hang the bucket a little bit higher. So 2 5-gallon buckets hanging at the point of the shoulder. A myth, a pony club myth that has been out there for a while is that you can't have the bucket directly metal to metal. You see how this bucket with a metal handle is on a metal hanger. Chances are if the horse got his hoof in the bucket would break under the sheer weight of the horse. It used to be a myth that if you had a screw eye, so say this was a screw eye, that you would need to tie some twine so that you had some breakable component to the buckets. You can do that if you want. I'm not saying that you can't do that, but it is not required for you to have a piece of baling twine between a screw eye and a snap, because we accept that the plastic of the bucket is more likely to break under the weight of the horse than the twine. And actually, if anyone who's tried to hang with twine knows, the twine tends to break at really inconvenient times and soaks your stall and on all your bedding, which is not fun for anyone involved. So 2 5-gallon buckets. If you use electrolytes, you're going to label it. Any buckets that involve your horse, I always label them water only. In addition to your name or your team, you want to make sure that they get back to you. And throughout the rally, you'll want them to be nice and full. Usually, like when I'm walking through a rally, I want both the buckets to be at least half full for me to not worry about the horse, because you want to make sure at least 5 gallons at any time. We'll go over to this corner, and we have a round feed tub. You have a couple of options for feed tubs at rally. You can use a flat back bucket like we saw with the water, which that's what I do. Or you can have a round feed tub like this. I love that we have a round feed tub for the example, because I had the opportunity to show you 2 things. First of all, when you go into the rule book and it says if you use a round bucket, you need at least 2 points of contact for a round bucket. You see here, this is in the corner, so there are 3 snaps, 3 screw eyes. And the reason why you have to have at least 2 points of contact, so we could even drop that. You see, if we went to 1, this is kind of a big bucket, it would roll around. So the reason why we have 2 points of contact is when your horse is eating, at least it will be stable. It's even more stable because they've had the 3rd set of snaps. The other thing I want to show you is something that it becomes kind of a pony club thing. You see how the snaps are adjusted on this bucket? There are the snaps the tabs are on the outside. This isn't a point thing, but it is a safety issue, so it's always good to consider. You can think about your horse wearing a halter. Hello, we have a friend watching the video. Your horse with the halter, it could get caught on these little nubs. Part of the horses, like I've heard of horses catching their eyes on this. So a lot of times when you hang buckets, it's always good practice to put the snaps facing away from your horse, so that it's the smooth side of the snap facing your horse, and you can see right away why that would be safer. than having, you think about your horse, okay, it's just going to be the back of snap, as opposed to, and again, I use my hands a lot when I talk about what feels good, what doesn't feel good. You run your hands over this, it's not going to get caught. It gets caught over here. So it's not like, oh, turn that. You might get a note that says turn your snaps to face the other way so they don't get caught. So you can have the feed tub. You can have your horse's salt lick in the feed tub. That's what I do. I usually remove it and then I put my horse's feed in and I put the salt lick back in. This stall does have a salt lick holder that I'll show you later. You can feed in a round feeder. You can feed in a flat back bucket. You can also do a feed pan. If you do a feed pan on the ground, you should only have it in the horse's stall when he or she is eating. And then take it out at night. So this requires some planning overnight rallies, that you want to feed early enough to give your horse enough time that you can take the feed pan out. A lot of times at rallies, so we have this stall where you have a salt lick holder. That is a rare occurrence at rally grounds. So, but you can take a holder like this or the wire holders and you can hang them from the bars using baling twine. A lot of the Himalayan salt licks, they come on ropes, so you can just tie it. It's so important for horses to have access to salt, especially in the Virginia area in the summer, because it's hot, humid. You want your horse to drink, and making sure that they have salt available, make sure that your horse stays hydrated. You do have the option of adding salt to your horse's feed, but if you've spent some time around your horse, you know, there's no way to decide when your horse will need salt. So having it available, just like having the water freely available whenever they want it, is really important. So, you know, again, it's how do we keep our horse comfortable? How do we keep them safe and performing their best? One of the things that we have here also on display, you have a feed tub. Hopefully you're feeding hay and you've measured. It is perfectly acceptable in a stall situation to feed your horse hay on the ground. I know a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to pony club, I have to use a hay bag. If that's not what your horse is used to, I wouldn't recommend setting up a hay bag. Put the hay where they expect it. I personally like to feed on the ground because then it allows its natural drainage, it simulates grazing. My guys live outside most of the time, so you know, anything to keep them feeling that their lives are normal in a stall, eating on the ground is one of those. But if you're going to hang a hay bag, and I'm just going to reach around the corner here and grab the hay bag, it's empty. Best hay bag ever. It's the only hay bag I know how to handle. Another urban legend is that hay bags aren't allowed to be anything but cotton. Cotton hay bags are nice, easy to cut. They're also getting harder and harder to find. The thing about cotton too is that the fibers can get moldy after a while because it's natural fiber. So we're seeing more and more of the nylon. This is a small mesh. I think these are brilliant for pony club rallies. The horses don't think they're so brilliant so much because they can't eat as much, but you have less waste of the hay on the ground when you're at a trailer rally. The other thing that's perfectly acceptable are those nylon bags where there's just a single hole where they can eat their hay. The key is to make sure that it's hung the appropriate height, and you kind of want it to be eye level. Think about the dust falling into a horse's eye. You want to make sure that you hang it high enough and in the stall, and it's got to be high enough that when it's empty, so you see how long this hay bag is. I mean, it's almost half my body length, so it's probably like 2.5 feet. When it's empty, that there's no chance of your horse's hoof getting caught into it. And so this is where, you know, if you're on the shorter side working with the horse management judges to rig it up overnight, you can always help us, or we will always help you. I swear, you can always ask us for help. And, you know, we will make sure that it's secure. If it's nylon, you know, you can use baling twine if you want it to have breakaway, but again, not required. You can make the hay bag shorter by looping the top. When it's full, it's a lot easier, but you can loop the big component through, like you'll have it hanging and then you'll loop it through and you see it makes it a shorter hay bag. So there are a lot of things that you can do. If you're going to have a hay bag, it needs to come down as soon as it's empty. So from my opinion, unless my horse has to eat from a hay bag for some particular health reason, I think a hay bag or a hay net causes more issues for horse management and care than sometimes it's worth. But if it's something that your horse is used to doing, or you're trying to conserve hay, it's something that you have to do. You'd certainly have to do it at trailer rallies, because let me tell you, it's pretty boring to be a horse and tied to the side of a trailer all day. So those are the major components. I'm trying to think. One other thing I wanted to show you. So first, setup and safety. We're also looking at bedding of the stall, and we won't, varying parts of the country have different styles of bedding. When you go to a rally and you have stabling, I would ask, what do the floors look like? Are they rubber mats? Is it clay flooring? How many bags of shavings? And plan for that, because if your horse is going to be there for a while, you want them to be comfortable. So like when I go to locations with asphalt flooring, I'm always going to bed a lot more deeply than I would if I were on clay flooring or rubber mats, mainly because think about you standing all day on concrete and you only have 2 legs. Imagine if you had 4 and then you had to go out and jump a course. You would kind of want to have some cushion between your feet. So as much as you're probably thinking at the end of the rally, when you have to strip the stall and take all the great stuff that you've set up, take it down, there is no sacrificing the comfort of your horse. So plan ahead, make sure you know what kind of stabling you have, any sort of stuff that you need to have on hand. We're looking at a permanent setup here, so they were able to use screw eyes and things that you could bolt into the wall. But what if you're not able to do that? A lot of showgrounds, you don't have that option to screw into wood, or you might be dealing with tent stabling. So it's always good to ask questions. That is something that horse management has taught me, is that you can't ask too many questions. And there is no such thing as a bad question, because if you have the question, somebody else has it as well. As assistant horse management judges, it's good for you to go with your chief and kind of figure out what their expectations are, and what they expect to see. If there's something quirky about the stalls at the facility, a big thing, and I saw it when we walked through, is use of stall guards. There's a whole section in the rule book about use of stall guards and stall chains, and that is the chief's decision as to whether or not during the day competitors will be allowed to use stall guards. And again, it's a safety issue. If a horse leans on it or crawls underneath, for Pony Club, we would require 2 of the donut chains to be up. But there are specific parameters if you're going to use a stall guard that you need to follow. And it's good to have the whole team, the whole horse management judging team, on the same page when they go out into the barns, because it's the worst thing when you're a competitor is one judge comes by and says, you can't do this. And then they ask the next judge that comes by and says, hey, is this okay? I don't care. So it's really important. The competitors will ask questions, but as assistant horse management judges, it's important for you to ask questions, to be like, is this what's acceptable? Or if you see something that you're not sure how to handle it, that's when you bring the chief in. That's why you have a chief horse management judge there. They're there to make sure it's uniform. So that is pretty much the stall setup, and it varies based on where you are.